Up next, we have our very first panel discussion, which has a fantastic lineup of top speakers, indeed some of the top leaders of EMEA from various industries such as broadcasting, banking, insurance, aviation, and IT. The topic of the panel discussion is addressing cybersecurity landscape with unity, agility, and vigilance. The stage is all yours, Mr. Srinivas Mathala, our respected panel moderator.
Thanks, Lord Shalini.
Pleasure.
Very good morning to all the peers of the cybersecurity world. Very glad to be part of the community and my privilege to be present here with all you exceptional leaders. Coming to myself, I'm Srinivas Mathala, around 2 decades of overall experience in the cybersecurity domain and around 10 years in the region. Currently with OSN, contributing as head of cybersecurity and IT compliance. I love today's topic and I believe its relevance and importance is apt in the current context. Being part of the cybersecurity world, we all evolved with many best practices and processes our organizations have conceived, strategized, and implemented in the last couple of decades, which are now, according to me, are facing a status quo due to the unprecedented global situation all the organizations are going through. The questions that are fear-mongering all the industries with very few exceptions, including the cybersecurity landscape. How unified are the organizations today to drive forward? How prepared are we for what's next? How can we ensure that we stay aligned to our organizational compliance values? Unfortunately, the answers are bleak for many. The golden point is organizations are trusting and inculcating in the cultural and operational practices to redefine themselves to ensure operational resilience in this new normal are unity, agility, and vigilance. Even though this trio has been on the strategic boards for good times known, but the capability and credibility to support the business in times of need was rarely tested. So to gain some insights on how organizations can sail through these unexperienced situations, today we have with us our diversified panelists representing the region's prestigious and key operational sectors to share their insights. Please allow me to welcome our allied dignitaries, Mr. Faisal Biary, Chief Information Security Officer, United Cooperative Assurance. Mr. Biary, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you, Srinivas. The pleasure to be here with everyone today. I'm Abdullah, Biary, the Chief Information Security Officer for United Cooperative Assurance. This is the second organization that I've joined as the CISO. A little about me, I graduated from the United States, George Washington University in cybersecurity. That was my master's degree. And I'm a passionate guy when it comes to cybersecurity. I'd like to always try to be a step ahead when it comes to protecting organizations and having the best policies and procedures and standards developed and implemented within the organization. Thank you, Srinivas.
Pleasure to have you here, Mr. Biary. And we have our next panelist is Mr. Ali Alsaegh, Head of IT Security, National Bank of Bahrain.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ali Alsaegh, and I'm heading the IT Security Department in National Bank of Bahrain. I've been in this field for the last 16 years. Previously, I worked in National Bank of Bahrain and Kuwait, BBK, for 5 years in the security field. Then I was heading again the department in First Energy Bank for 9 years. We built it there from scratch. I was heading the department. We certified with ISO, and BCP as well was under my jurisdiction. And recently I joined NBB to continue the transformation journey. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's welcome Mr. Mohammad Asif Riaz, Manager Information Security and Risk Management from Gulf Air. Mr. Mohammad, please introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum, guys. My name is Mohammad Asif Riaz. I'm the Manager Information Security and Risk Management at Gulf Air. I've been with the airline since last 7 years now. And before that, I was working in a Big Four consulting firm as an information security consultant. Security is my passion, and it's the only thing we know and the only thing I do. On the educational level, I have completed my graduation in computing from Staffordshire. Other than that, I have some certifications like CISSP, CISA, ISO 27001 lead auditor, ISO 22301 lead auditor, C-risk, some PCI certifications, and some cloud certifications. So yeah, security, trying to look after the security of the airline and trying to secure the airline from the threats from internal and external perspective.
Yeah, that's a good lineup of certifications and knowledge you have gained over the years. So yeah, let's welcome our final panelist, Mr. Tomell Ceasar, who is Group Head of Ethics and Compliance, Careem. Mr. Tomell, welcome. Please share a word with our audience.
Hi, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with the esteemed panelists and the organization. My name is Tomell Ceasar. I've been in the region overseeing global compliance programs for the last 13 years. I'm born and raised in Chicago. I went to Stanford University. I am not a cybersecurity expert, but I think the fact that I'm here today shows that cybersecurity has become an issue for, frankly, everyone in the corporate world. So I'm happy to join and speak about my experience in compliance, overseeing various compliance organizations from Total to Emirates National Oil Company, and as Srinivas said, now currently at Careem, the ride-sharing app.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tomell. Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure to moderate this session today. And yeah, as you have heard our introduction from our dignitaries, we are talking about around 100 years of experience and expertise on board today. So looking forward to gain great insights from their experience and expertise to make most of the short span we have. So let's start with our discussion. So Mr. Abdullah, so organizations today have an obligatory adoption to new remote working trends, have opened up new avenues for security gaps. So in this context, can you please share your insight on the importance of vigilance in cybersecurity landscape and the measures organizations should adopt?
Great question, Mr. Srinivas. So when you talk about vigilance, you're talking about closely monitoring, right? So let's break it up. Now, I don't want to go with technical, just about technical when we talk about SOC, EDR, and all that good stuff. When we talk about cybersecurity, there's a framework, right? You have to have a clear framework. The framework in Saudi Arabia for insurance industry consists of 4 domains. The first domain is cybersecurity leadership and governance, where it talks about the importance of implementing the cybersecurity policy, the roles and responsibility of the employees when it comes to cybersecurity requirements and project management. Our second domain is cybersecurity risk management and compliance, where we talk about risk management, how the risk is being conducted, risk assessment, the risk treatment plan, and following up with it. We talk about the regulatory compliance in this domain also. We move to the third domain, is cybersecurity operations and technology, where we talk about the cybersecurity architecture, the physical security, human resources, infrastructure security. Our last and final domain is third-party cybersecurity, which consists of contract and vendor management, outsourcing, and cloud computing. So when you're talking about vigilance and closely monitoring your environment, with all this in place, and I'm just giving a small brief of each domain. So when you talk about such as the SOC, the Security Operating Center, how important is that for each organization and the efficiency of the SOC of monitoring 24/7, making sure that it's well active? Some people outsource the SOC agreement with a third party, and they don't check or validate that the SOC is actually doing what they're supposed to do, right? you should conduct tests, ensuring such as penetration tests internally, ensuring that the SOC team is working efficiently, and they report that there's something going on with the network and the environment. Another thing is to have a network operating center to closely monitor your environment. Well, nowadays hackers are using critical timings such as Ramadan, when we are fasting during the morning, and we're humans at the end, right? We're fasting, we're tired. No one wants to stare at the computer or laptop 24/7. So with that also comes artificial intelligence and the new technologies that use artificial intelligence that analyze the behaviors and within this nature. I hope that answers it, Mr. Srinivas.
Thanks, Mr. Biary. Do you recommend any specific elements to protect business against this cybercrime?
Well, of course, you should not stick with traditional firewalls. You should not stick with traditional SIM solutions. You should also look forward to the technologies that are using and utilizing artificial intelligence. Don't just rely on the humans. Also, you have to have solutions that will give you a heads up if something is fishy, if something is it's not funny if you download an application and it's playing around with your operating system and things like that. So you have to have these updated solutions so that you could be safer. For instance, there's an attack, a ransomware, a zero-day attack. The SOC team, it didn't get reported to them, but from the endpoint, the changes to the systems or the changes to the servers, it could indicate that it's a ransomware. And this is one way that our artificial intelligence could help you. So I think it's key to start looking for new solutions and new technologies that are in the market. And that's a good way to prevent these type of attacks from happening.
That's a very valuable insights, Mr. Biary. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
So, Mr. Ali Alsaegh, So, you being from banking industry, you would have seen this. Many industries had reservations for cloud technologies. Now, with these unprecedented times, we are literally forced for a swift adoption in these demanding situations. What will be your guidance on the main cybersecurity threats to be considered before anyone starting their cloud journey?
Yes, first of all, as you mentioned, we need to know what we are protecting, what we are moving to the cloud. As you know, before COVID, it was forbidden to speak about core banking access from outside. Nowadays, we have to give. It's a business decision, and it's business critical systems. So before you start, you need to know what you are moving to the cloud. You need to know you have the right skill set as well. You need to have which setup is suiting for your industry. For example, if we, as a bank, if we're going to move to the cloud, we need to know, are we meeting all the regulatory requirements such as PCI, payment card industry? Are we meeting, are we moving personal data for customers? Yes, we need to have the approval from the central bank. You need to know you have a compliance part, you have a technology part as well. We have to have like a hybrid setup, for example, which setup you want to go. All these are elements you have to look for and look at. Another thing I think one thing to look at, maybe if you want to start your journey, is CSA, Cloud Security Alliance framework. It's a good way to start if you don't know or you're not yet planned how you're going to start. Yeah. So you have the control matrix, what you're going to apply, and how can you go forward with it. Yes. So it's definitely a challenging journey, but I think in the end it will pay. Yeah. Thank you.
Any tips and tricks you would like to share to minimize these risks in this cloud journey?
Yes, definitely. There is a lot of tools. You know, if you are before, I know all the guys are security expert here and I have many years in experience. Controls been changing. The data before it's in our data center. I just have to secure the perimeter, close the USB, and that's me. Nowadays, our data is in laptops, in iPads, in our mobiles. We need to follow the data. So the previous controls are not going to work today. Yeah. So we need to adapt new technologies and new standards of operating, such as zero trust, such as the latest Gartner come up with the SASE as well standard, which you follow the data. So the controls are changing. We need to adapt new controls. It's not like the previous controls. We need to apply, for example, CASP. CASP is very important for cloud setup. So these kind of things is very important. And mainly, what you are protecting and where you're going to put it, and what are the implications of these data if they get, compromised.
Thanks a lot, Ali. The framework still the tool for audience. Okay, so yeah, let's move a bit from the core cybersecurity, but a very integral component, the compliance part. Mr. Thomas Ceasar. So nations and states created a lot of exceptions to mobilize organizations to operate in this new situation. The hard reality is in this chaos also, we are in a catch-22 situation where companies cannot be exempted. So share your views on how the cybersecurity has been impacted by these compliance.
Yeah, sure. So I think, previously issues such as information security, IT, cybersecurity were all kind of siloed within the industry, right? So the industry experts would own and manage this topic for and on behalf of companies and really effectively ensure that, the IT infrastructure was meeting the need through various risk assessments and control frameworks. And subsequent auditing. What we've seen now is that with the advent of events such as the SolarWinds hack that transpired in the U.S. government, is that these issues can no longer be siloed within the industry itself, and that these issues have now become front and center for companies in their general operations. And so if now that it has risen to such a level of being an existential threat to a company's integrity, to a company's reputation, to a way a company is able to even operate, it's now moved from the silo to a more centralized concern, which of course corporate compliance sort of deals with. So, in my experience 5 years ago, I would have never gotten involved in cybersecurity issues being, head of compliance. Now I'm involved in every issue that comes through the cybersecurity team. And so I was instrumental in setting up the governance, as an example, to making sure that cybersecurity issues are escalated to the appropriate channels, that they are communicated to the compliance committee, that we are reporting and covering these and sufficiently mitigating these issues. And so it's become a central concern as well. For example, Abdullah earlier was talking about, the risks with third parties. That's something that compliance deals squarely with, right? That we manage on behalf of the company. So we've ensured that cybersecurity issues is part and parcel of the third party onboarding process. So not only are we looking for corruption and bribery exposure, we're looking principally for potential areas of exposure in terms of cybersecurity with relation to our third parties. Do they have access to our data? Are they going to be on site? What kind of controls do we have in place? What kind of contractual provisions and protections do we have to ensure that the company is safeguarded? So we definitely see, given the import of this topic, the need for these topics to be decentralized in terms of the silos and for further integration with the corporate sort of general stack through compliance.
Great. Great, Tomell. Yeah. So do you see that the integration between these two departments, like compliance and cybersecurity, does it strengthen the organization posture?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, compliance professionals, unless you hire a cybersecurity expert, are not experts, right? We are corporate compliance experts. So we have to rely on people who have the expertise, like many of my esteemed panelists, to advise and inform about what are the granular level threats that the company faces. What compliance does is ensures that it has the visibility and institutionalization within the company, so that these issues are not just dealt with by a handful of people, but that they're escalated to, you know, other stakeholders that have and interact with this. Ultimately, you know, their exposure comes, cybersecurity exposure comes in many different forms, right? It could be through the ERP systems, it could be through your third parties, it could be through, you know, coding or hacking through, you know, email, so on and so forth. So given the array of areas and array of exposure, we want to make sure that it's fully integrated and that the company has a fully integrated approach, and compliance sort of partnering up with cybersecurity ensures that we have that full supply chain covered and the correct visibility and authority behind it to make the changes and governance requirements part and parcel of the company.
Okay, absolutely agree with you. Thanks a lot for your insights, Tomell. That really helps our cybersecurity guys to align with the compliance departments in the organization. Okay, so let's move to our next panelist, Mr. Mohammad Asif Raza. Currently, many industries are worst impacted, but still we have a lot of regulatory requirements. And as Mr. Tomell has also addressed, like particularly the integration with third parties and business partners is an issue. So can you share your insights on cybersecurity challenges related to vigilance for third parties and business partners?
Yeah, actually, the challenge is quite huge. And the reason is that there is no single mandated standard for where we can all talk to each other in the same language. Like there are some standards where like PCI DSS is there, but then the scope is limited to the CDE environment, which is the cardholder data environment. If a selected part of information is not part of CDE, it's not under PCI DSS. And how the third parties, how the business partners are managing that information is a challenge. With the introduction of regulations related to data privacy like GDPR in the EU and PDPL in Bahrain, and there are some other regional standards also, like in UAE, they have their own standard. In Oman, they have a very good standard. Those standards are there, but there is no like independent review of the cybersecurity posture of the organization. Like there is no piece of paper or there is no piece of assurance which can tell us that, okay, they will take care of our data well. Like there are certain vendors we talk to, especially in our business line. And I believe the same is with other vectors also, that we have to share information with our partners. How they work with the information is a question mark. There are certain security standards, like there is ISO 27001, there is COBIT, there is ITIL, there are so many standards, but are they following it or not? Are they following it with the full scope or not? These are all the questions. So the challenge is huge, but the way forward is also there. But it's a bit difficult. The way forward, how we tackle it is that we try to incorporate the security requirements from the contractual perspective and the SLA perspective. So we try to cover it from that perspective. But again, all vendors are not the same. Not all vendors have the same size of security and compliance team who will be managing it. Some vendors have a small team, some vendor has a very big team. So again, it's not one size fits all. The challenge is there, and it's like a daily battle to ensure that we are on the right side.
Okay. So based on what you have conveyed, do you think a well-integrated threat and response mechanism can be beneficial in securing cybersecurity landscape?
Yes, it can be very beneficial. I actually personally believe that this is the only way in the longer run all the organizations can be saved by saving each other. Like if there is a breach happening somewhere, or if there is even a threat in the same industry or in the same region, how quickly we are informing other sister concerns, other sister organizations, or even our supply chain for the threat, on the attack, or even on the resolution, whatever. How quickly we do it, actually, it depends a lot on how easily we are able to, or how quickly we are able to contain the damage. Like recently, just beginning of this week, there was a breach on one of the reservation system, which fortunately we are not using, which is used by some budget airlines in the region and also internationally. That reservation system was breached, and it was a malware attack, and there was no bookings for them for the last 5 days. There is no online bookings. They are doing everything manually. So how quickly they shared this information with their peers, with their supply chain, that helped other organizations tackle their the security part of it. Also, like what was explained by Mr. Tomell and Mr. Ali about like the compliance challenges, the security challenges, the ever changing landscape from security perspective as well as from threat perspective. All of this is a challenge, and this can only be covered if we are working together. A very good example is in Bahrain. They have this IGA. They have this service called Bahrain CERT, which is the secure computer emergency response team, and they are sharing advisories related to regional threats, related to industry threats, with all the big organizations, which is a very good example of it. But we can do more. We can have more organization to organization interaction, and ensure, like, the biggest challenge in this case is that no organization can inform other organization that we are breached. That's really bad from compliance as well as from the reputation perspective. So we need to have some mechanisms where we share the information, but anonymously, where we don't tell that XYZ organization got breached, but we said that some organization got breached, something like this. But this can really, I believe this is the only way we can survive, by working together.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Mohammed. That's pretty good to know that you are not part of that list. But
Yes.
This is our day-to-day journey in the cybersecurity world. There is a lot of valuable insights from all the panelists. Thanks once again. And Naveen, do we have any questions from the teams?
Yes, thanks so much there. Mr. Srinivas, as of now, I don't see any questions, and it's just that we are short with time. So maybe we've got a minute, maybe a quick round of question to the panelists. Do you have anything?
We have. I'd just like to give a overall roundup in terms of what we have discussed. Like Ali has discussed, like Mr. Biary has discussed about the frameworks in the kingdom and how we should align it. And Mr. Ali has shared about the banking industry and the regulations they have gone through and how they are evolving to the cloud journey. And Tomell has shared about the importance of the compliance and the cybersecurity world integration, which is the most needed thing if an organization has to move forward. And Mr. Mohammed has discussed about the third-party integration and the tight integration of platforms and the social responsibility to communicate to the world so that okay, I'm impacted, but I want to stay calm. That will not help either them or any of the industry peers. So, yep, absolutely a pleasure to moderate this allied dignitaries, and thanks all once again. And Naveen, back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr.
Sure.
Srinivas, and all the panelists. It was an informative session. Of course, the audience had a lot to take away from this discussion. Thank you so much again, and we will see you all soon in our next editions.